Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sid. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Sid_Dwyer. And I firstly just want to say a big thank you for 90,000 subscribers. It really means a lot to me. So anyway, in today's video, I'm going to be talking about pets owned by celebrities, influencers, and mostly YouTubers. And most of the pets that I'm going to talk about in this video will be ex-pets, because a lot of these influencers just view animals, usually dogs, as an accessory that they can just get rid of at the end of a trend. And influencers getting pets and then discarding them shortly after is unfortunately pretty common. A couple of people who I made videos on recently are very guilty of that. It's not even something that I focused on in those videos at all really, but lo and behold, of course they're also the kind of people who treat animals as if they're disposable. Like Freely the banana girl. I made a video about her a few months ago, and as it turns out, she jumped on the Italian greyhound trend and adopted one. And then fast forward a couple of years, that dog is nowhere to be seen. And Farrah Abraham, who I just made a video on, has a long list of vanishing dogs, as well as a long list of animal abuse claims. In season 3 of Teen Mum, the reality show that Farrah was on, Farrah gets her first dog. And ever since then, there seems to be a 6-month cycle of Farrah getting rid of a dog, and then getting a new one. But yeah, that just goes to show how common this sort of thing is amongst YouTubers and celebrities. And speaking of celebrities, this wouldn't be a video about pets being treated as accessories if I didn't bring up the Kardashians. It is truly insane the amount of pets that they go through. Any fans of their reality show Keeping Up with the Kardashians will know that pets will be introduced, and then a few episodes later, poof, they're gone. On Reddit, somebody laid out using the Kardashians' Instagram posts when they got certain pets, and then when their pets were last seen. And a lot of their animals only lasted 3 to 6 months. If they were lucky, they could last up to a year, but more often than not, they just didn't last. And a lot of these pets were given to each other as surprise gifts, which I think is a big reason as to why a lot of them don't last.
Surprise! Happy birthday, Chloe.
Oh, no. Oh my God.
Here's your new babies.
What am I supposed to do?
She doesn't want them, guys.
No, I want them, but I don't, what?
It's really unfortunate that they treat animals like they're a handbag, and I'd really wish that they'd stop. And don't get me wrong, while these animals are in the care of an influencer, chances are they're probably getting the best toys, the best food, and the best veterinary care if they need any. For the most part, they get their fundamental needs met. Unless they're one of Farrah Abraham's dogs, then they're probably suffering. But yeah, aside from a few exceptions and obviously completely forgetting about the emotional needs of an animal, usually the pets will get their needs met. So is there really anything wrong with an influencer getting a pet and then discarding it and then repeating the process? Of course there is. I will say that this is a very complicated and nuanced situation when talking about the care of an animal, but I think we can all agree that this kind of behavior isn't fair on the animal. Some animals, dogs especially, have the ability to form strong emotional connections to their owner, or in the case of influencers, probably their assistants. So to disrupt the connection a dog may have formed with somebody may cause it to have anxiety and depression. I can understand most situations where somebody needs to rehome a pet. There are so many valid reasons why a pet needs to be rehomed. But when there's a pattern of behavior of somebody doing it again and again and again, that's when it goes from being a mistake to being an irresponsible pet owner. And don't get me wrong, it's totally in the benefit of the pet for it to be rehomed regardless of how much stress it may be caused. But to repeatedly bring an animal into their environment knowing that it isn't suitable for it is just totally wrong. Like, they shouldn't have even gotten a dog for the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th time when they know that they can't look after it. And in the case of the Kardashians, they all buy each other dogs and cats as gifts, and none of them last. So at this point, they should know that they shouldn't be buying each other animals as presents. So these influencers just need to leave the animals for people who are actually going to look after them, not drag them into their lives just to kick them out a few months later. And another reason why influencers partaking in this kind of disposable pet behavior is a bad thing is because they influence other people to do it. An example of this is with Kylie Jenner and the Italian greyhound trend. She introduced a lot of the world to Italian greyhounds. And then the next minute, YouTuber Tana Mongeau is asking what kind of dog Kylie has, and then shortly after gets one and then names it Lumen. And at the time of her getting Lumen, she also had another dog named Dexter, and I guess she wasn't able to look after two dogs at once because shortly after she got Lumen, Dexter disappeared. And then later, Lumen, of course, disappeared as well. I'll be talking about Lumen's situation a little bit more later in the video. But when people get these animals on a whim because they saw an influencer with it, like Tana Mongeau, they don't seem to take into account that each breed of animal, each breed of dog is different. Every single dog needs a different set of requirements. Things like diet, climate, are they a social breed? Are they energetic, or are they more laid back? And most importantly, is the animal's needs compatible with the owner's lifestyle? All of these things should be taken into consideration when getting a new dog. And for the most part, a lot of dogs can fit into anyone's lifestyle. Like, I doubt my parents took into consideration if my white, crusty-eyed, fluffy childhood dog was compatible with their lifestyle. It was cute and they just got it. But I think that's mainly because their lifestyle was pretty much compatible with any kind of pet. Like, they weren't going to be traveling often, they weren't completely overwhelmed with their work or their kids. They had the ability to look after an animal. So for them and a lot of people, it's something that you don't have to consider. But for an influencer, somebody who could be traveling all the time, going on brand trips or touring, or has a busy social life and is always out of the house, then it's probably a good idea to consider whether or not a certain dog breed is a good idea for them. Because I think if they looked into the compatibility of a dog with their lifestyle, they may consider not buying one. But it seems like they don't even make an attempt to look into any of that and are just more than happy to keep the cycle going. Okay, so now I want to talk about Logan Paul and some of his pets. He's a YouTuber who made pets a huge part of his brand. His now deceased parrot Maverick was the name and the logo of his clothing brand, and he would often buy animals and then make them the feature of his vlogs, which isn't that much of an issue other than the line being blurred between them being a pet, something a lot of people view as their child, or them being props for a video. But either way, they were a huge part of his brand. He did have quite the collection of pets. He had an exotic turtle, he had dogs of all sizes, he had another parrot, and he had a couple of pigs. And because they were such a big part of his brand, it made it all the more shocking that they just vanished, even though at this point we should be used to it. In a video that I did at the start of the year, I was able to find out what happened to the majority of his pets. Most of them he gave to his friends, or he returned them to the people who he got them off originally, but there were a couple of his pets that I wasn't able to work out what happened to them, and they were his pigs. The first pig that he got was Pearl, and she was sold to him as a teacup pig, and teacup pigs are an animal that are very commonly rehomed when their owners realize that teacup pigs aren't actually a thing, and these pigs usually still grow to the same size of a normal pig. And after Pearl grew too big to be easily transported around his yard or his home to make content, she was exiled to a pen at the back of Logan's backyard. And then he noticed that Pearl seemed to be depressed. She was exhibiting some lethargic behavior, so he decided to get her a companion. And that companion was his second pig that he named Piggy Smalls. And he purchased Piggy Smalls from the same breeder that he purchased Pearl from. And honestly, kudos to Logan for recognizing that something wasn't quite right with Pearl and trying to fix it. But I think it just goes back to that maybe if he couldn't provide Pearl with the best life, then maybe he shouldn't have gotten her to begin with. And he repeated that same mistake with another one of his animals that he got, which was a Tibetan Mastiff called Ginger. That dog has a very high prey drive, and it ended up killing his bird Maverick. Pearl wasn't compatible with his lifestyle, and Ginger wasn't compatible with his lifestyle and his other pets. And I wish he had recognized that sooner rather than later, like before one of his other pets died. So towards the end of 2021, when Logan moved to Puerto Rico, it was pretty much confirmed then that he didn't take his pigs with him, and he didn't offer an explanation as to what happened to them, so they essentially just vanished. None of his friends were posting saying that they were now looking after the pigs, so there was a big question mark around them. And I checked out the pages of the person who Logan bought the pigs off, and there was no indication that they now had Pearl and Piggy Smalls back in their care, but I decided to message them anyway and see if they knew anything. They didn't mind me messaging them at all, and they basically said that Pearl and Piggy Smalls were still together and they were with a new owner. But there has now been a new update this month, and this is pretty much the reason why I decided to revisit this topic. A farmer in Fillmore, California got in contact with me saying that they were now looking after Pearl. They provided me with pictures of Pearl as proof, and it definitely is Pearl that they now have. And this farmer wasn't the person who the pigs were originally rehomed to. Basically what happened was that the previous owner was in the process of moving out of state, and in that transition process, Piggy Smalls and Pearl escaped their enclosure and started roaming the wilderness. And when they went looking for them, they found Piggy Smalls dead. He had been killed by coyotes. Fortunately, they were able to find Pearl alive. The new owner of Pearl is adamant that the previous owner is a good guy. It's just that she believes that the pigs were just dumped on him and he was doing the best he could do. So when the new owner was rescuing Pearl, that's when they were told that Pearl was originally Logan Paul's pet. They then searched Logan Paul's name and pig, and my video about his pets came up. And then after watching my video, they reached out to me. And they are actually looking to rehome Pearl. At the moment, Pearl is well looked after. She's getting plenty of food, she's got shelter, she's not at risk of getting eaten by coyotes, she's living a very comfortable life. But the new owner quickly realized that Pearl is a big people's person and really likes to get attention from people. And they hope to be able to rehome Pearl to a home that can give her that. Like I said, Pearl is really well looked after at the moment, but the new owner just wants to give her the best quality of life possible. So if anyone knows anyone in the Fillmore, California area that can give Pearl that kind of life, please DM me on Instagram. The current owner is just far too busy with farmers markets and all of their other animals to give that kind of care to Pearl. They're an animal lover, and had they not rescued Pearl, she likely would have escaped again and been eaten by coyotes. They now just simply want Pearl to have the best life possible. But yeah, Pearl's situation is another consequence to influencers treating pets as though they're some kind of accessory or prop. And another pet that had a similar journey to Pearl was Tana Mongeau's Italian greyhound, Lumen. As I talked about earlier, Kylie Jenner kind of set off the trend of owning Italian greyhounds, and Tana Mongeau was one of the people who jumped on that trend. But the thing about trends is that they end, and when that trend ended, Lumen disappeared. And with Tana, that isn't all that surprising, because like the Kardashians, she has a history of her dogs just vanishing, and then later another dog pops up. As predictable as it may have been, it was still kind of a shock, because Lumen was by far clearly Tana's favorite dog that she had had. She made an Instagram account for Lumen. Lumen was always in her videos, and she even put Lumen's face on her merch. Much like Logan Paul's parrot, she had made Lumen a part of her brand. So you would think that she would try and make this dog work. She would try and make it fit into her lifestyle. But ultimately, she didn't. Lumen was obviously just far too energetic for her. Lumen would often chew up her beauty blenders.
There's also a giant gash in my beauty blender because Lumen tried to eat this one.
And Italian greyhounds are known for this kind of energetic behavior. If you look up any website about Italian greyhound care, one thing that is always mentioned is that they are a high energy breed. But because Tana couldn't handle Lumen, Lumen often spent a lot of time with Tana's assistant at the time. And that assistant had a brother with lots of dogs, so Lumen often spent a lot of time with those dogs. And Tana said that on Twitter when someone questioned what happened to Lumen, because at that point we had just been seeing less and less and less of her, before we ultimately just stopped seeing her altogether. For a while, it was unknown what happened to Lumen, but based on what Tana said in a podcast with Jeff Wittick recently, it seems like she gave Lumen to her assistant to completely own.
Have you had a dog at all? Let me guess, you got a dog and you gave it away after a month?
I was gonna make the joke, but I felt like it would be better if I set you up for it. And
You did
good.
that.
No, I've never like really, like, I had a dog and then like my assistant like ended up just saying, I was traveling everywhere and like it was my assistant's dog as is, and then like she was, you know, after years I was letting her go, and like it was a better fit.
And then about a year ago, someone started writing comments on Lumen's Instagram page saying that their grandparent was looking after Lumen now. And apparently their grandparent rescued Lumen from a pretty bad situation. So yeah, we don't really know what happened to Lumen after Tana's assistant had her, but it seems like the outcome may not have been the best. Tana's assistant stopped posting about Lumen in 2018, and yes, I did reach out to her to ask her what happened to Lumen, and she blocked me. But yeah, not really sure how credible the Instagram comments are, but that's kind of the only lead we have as to where Lumen is now. But all I hope is that Lumen is in a forever loving home. But yeah, Pearl, Piggy Smalls, and Lumen all have some pretty sad stories, all because they were the pets of YouTubers who couldn't handle them, which at the end of the day could have all been avoided had they not wanted to get a pet as a part of a trend, or because they wanted a prop for a video. But yeah, that's pretty much everything for this video. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to drink water, be nice to animals. Let's take a moment of silence for anyone who has to deal with Karens. And I'll see you in my next video.